Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And we will attempt to share the screen here. Where are you hiding? Okay. There it is, a different format. Hiding somewhere there. Okay, May 5th, here we are. And our first topic, the journey to liberation. Subtitle, though moksha may seem remote, there is wisdom in keeping this ultimate goal in mind as we live our day-to-day life. December 2015, Publisher's Desk. This Publisher's Desk was written in response to the challenge of Hindus relating to the concept of moksha as something that was relevant to their day-to-day life. A good point. The rishis asked the gods, what must a person do if he wishes to reach the blissful state of union with God? Is there a state that not only confers upon us supreme unbroken bliss, but also puts an end to pain, sorrow, and suffering? Does this process of reincarnation go on forever? Interesting question. The gods explain, no, each time the soul takes on a new body, it gets closer and closer to becoming perfect. To gain a better birth each time, one must live according to the natural laws that Hinduism proclaims, and live out the karma in this life positively and fully, while at the same time refraining from creating painful new karmas. After a number of such excellent incarnations and after God realization has been attained, the soul body becomes mature enough that it no longer needs to take a physical incarnation. Instead, it continues its evolution on inner planes of consciousness. There it goes, flying high. This release from samsara is called moksha. The soul is said to be freed from the bondage of birth and death. With this dramatic passage, Gurudeva explained liberation from rebirth. And coming down to earth from that, I thought, to attain life's ultimate purpose, 3 qualifications must be met. What are they? Said another way, what is Gurudeva's threefold definition of moksha? To attain life's ultimate purpose, 3 qualifications must be met. Earthly karma must be resolved, dharma must have been well performed, and God must be realized. So that's the threefold definition. One-fold is God has to be realized. Two-fold is God has to be realized and karma resolved. And then the third one, which gets left out generally, is dharma well performed. In other words, we have to do certain actions here on earth. Dharma needs to be well performed. The Upanishads assures us, if here one is able to realize him before the death of the body, he will be liberated from the bondage of the world. Katha Upanishad. I have found a sure way to put an audience to sleep within 5 minutes, is to talk at length about moksha. Why is this? It is because moksha seems so far off, something to be concerned about in a future life, something that is for monks to think about. This is because everyone feels that the challenges they are facing in day-to-day living are sufficient focus, and thus there is no need to also think about moksha. After all, there are three other more immediate goals: dharma, wealth, and love. Few seem to incorporate moksha into their philosophical framework. Most have only the vaguest concept of what existence after liberation would be like. Besides, why think about something that seems so far off, something to be concerned about in a future life? Knowing that release comes only when the soul is ripe for realization, having matured through many lives, the average devotee concludes that moksha is as remote as Jupiter, strictly the concern of yogis and sadhus. The challenge is to make life's ultimate spiritual attainment relevant to day-to-day family life. In public presentations, I refer to moksha as the X marks the spot destination, and then describe the journey that leads to it. While the destination may be distant, the journey toward it is already happening, whether we recognize it or not. So that's why we're focusing on the journey toward moksha. I ask listeners to visualize a mountain with a winding path leading to the summit, which is the blissful experience of God realization and moksha. In each life we are born near the same point on the path we reach at the end of our last life. Ideally, in each lifetime, we move farther up the mountain toward the mountaintop. We don't stand still, and definitely we don't go backwards. And for you, the question, what causes an individual to stand still? Standing still results from living a materialistic, self-centered life. So that's not bad. It's just that it doesn't cause spiritual progress. What causes an individual to go backwards? Going backwards is the price we pay for adharmic deeds, such as serious violence and dishonesty. So it has to be serious, not just something minor as a teenager. Major fraud as an adult, as an example. This singular long-term goal defines the direction of dharma and the well-lived life and provides a North Star for all navigating the rough seas of earthly experience. Most souls have much to do and achieve before striving for it directly, though all hope to attain it ultimately. It is achieved only after a certain level of perfection has been attained. Maturity of the soul sufficient to harness the forces of instinct, intellect, and emotion. Happily, Hinduism affirms that every person on earth will eventually reach the unity state of moksha and be free from rebirth. To describe how we can move toward moksha, I use the analogy of dance. I ask listeners, what is most needed for you to become good at Hindu classical dance? Invariably, most respond with the answer I have in mind, which is practice. Everybody knows that one. Reading books about dance won't make you a good dancer, nor will attending classes without practicing what you have learned. Regular practice is needed to keep the body limber and to master the art. Making strides on the spiritual journey to liberation is the same. To grow and evolve into our divine potential requires regular practice, ideally daily practice. And a question for you, what determines how far an individual moves forward? Spiritual advancement we make is directly related to the time and effort we devote to religious practices. So directly related, just like dance. The more you practice, the better you become. Sage Patanjali stresses this in his Yoga Sutra. Chapter 1, verse 21-22. For those who have strong dedications, samadhi is near. Whether one's practice is mild, medium, or intense also makes a difference. Gurudeva taught, when the soul has had enough experience, it naturally seeks to be liberated, to unravel the bonds. That begins the most wonderful process in the world as the seeker steps for the first time onto the spiritual path. Of course, the whole time through all those births and lives and deaths, the soul was undergoing a spiritual evolution, but unconsciously. Now it seeks to know God consciously. That is the difference. It's a big difference. Gurudeva stressed that seekers who are devout, who are sufficiently awakened to practice yoga, to seek the inner meaning of life, have arrived at this crucial stage. While liberation may be lifetimes away, this is indeed the time to cognize the goal and begin molding yourself for it by living in a way that brings advancement and unfoldment of your soul. But who has the time in a normal day for a generous period of spiritual practice? Many tell me they have no time at all. Employment, transportation, eating, entertainment, exercise, home duties, and spending time with family and friends take up the whole day, every day. As a solution, I recommend shortening the period of sadhana, but doing it regularly. For youth, I suggest a 10-minute spiritual workout. Worship, introspection, affirmation, and study. If you are following dharma and performing regular daily sadhana, you can be assured you are moving forward in a significant way in this life on your journey to liberation. So, two aspects to moving forward toward liberation. Following dharma. We're not doing anything adharmic. Moving backwards. And we're doing a regular daily sadhana. And then we know for sure we're making some good progress forward, which is all we're striving for, striving to make progress, as much progress as our karma and dharma allows. Gurudeva reminded us, we have taken birth in a physical body to grow and evolve into our divine potential. We are inwardly already one with God. Our religion contains the knowledge of how to realize this oneness and not create unwanted experiences along the way. Fearless Path is following the way of our spiritual forefathers, discovering the mystical meaning of the scriptures. Fearless Path is commitment, study, discipline, practice, the maturing of yoga into wisdom. In the beginning stages, we suffer until we learn. Learning leads us to service, and selfless service is the beginning of spiritual striving. Service leads us to understanding. Understanding leads us to meditate deeply and without distractions. Finally, meditation leads us to surrender in God. This is the straight and certain path. The Sanmarga leading to self-realization, the inmost purpose of life, and subsequently to moksha, freedom from rebirth. The point in evolution at which a soul earns release and the understanding of what happens afterwards is described in many ways. We can get a sense of the range of perspectives from the ancient Brahma Sutra, which cites a number of then current views. So this is interesting. Like saying all Hindus believe in moksha, it's just we don't define it the same way. Quite a difference. Well, let's look at some of the ways what moksha means to different traditions. Upon liberation, the soul attains non-difference from Brahman. So that's different from Gurudeva's in that this is happening immediately when you leave the physical body. So Gurudeva's philosophy is it takes a little time. That it gains the attributes of Brahman. That it exists only as pure consciousness. That even though it is pure consciousness from the relative standpoint, it can still gain the attributes of Brahman. That through pure will alone it can gain whatever it wishes. That it transcends any body or mind. That it possesses a divine body and mind. That it attains all powers except creatorship, which belongs to Ishvara alone. While these views vary, they all describe a state of being and evolution that far transcends normal mortal consciousness. Isn't that something worth thinking about, something worth striving for? It is a state of great souls such as our Paramaguru Siva Yoga Swami, who lives vibrantly in the Shiva Loka, showering blessings to devotees on earth. It is the highest of human achievements, the pinnacle and very purpose of all other experiences in life. The revolutionary transcendence of limited identity in favor of unity of consciousness and all-pervasive love. All the worlds rejoice when an old soul is freed from samsara, cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Moving on, our second topic, continuing with karma management. So the third step in the study of karma is managing your own karma by utilizing the correct understanding of karma to refine your actions and reactions in life. First step was eliminating misconceptions. Second step was understanding the terminology correctly. Now we're up to the third step, applying it to you. To help accomplish that, we will be presenting 10 principles for effective karma management. Today we are looking at principles 1 through 4. How are we doing on time? Okay. A few years ago, I was one of 2 speakers at a lecture in Perth, Australia. I spoke on enlightenment, stressing that it is a gradual process, a deepening of the ability to experience God, starting with seeing God as the light in the eyes of everyone you look at. The second speaker, a prominent Malaysian Hindu leader, made the point that a modern trend of Hindus is to consider the traditional wisdom given by Swamis as old-fashioned and not lend it much weight. Instead, many Hindus are fascinated with the modern secular self-improvement seminar approach, which quite often takes its principles from Hindu thinking, but does not give them gives them a modern packaging. So today we are taking that modern approach to karma management. You've heard of stress management workshops. Well, this is a karma management program designed for workshops in which we will learn the 10 principles for effective karma management drawn from the teachings of Gurudeva. A very interesting trend. Really became, I laughed when I saw this example in Bengaluru, one of the inner searches a long time ago, staying at a hotel, nice hotel, and happened to notice that down in the basement, in the seminar rooms, there was a seminar on by Stephen Covey, getting along with people, his principles for getting along with people. So I thought that was a good example of this idea, because his ideas really are secularized approaches to Gurudeva's idea. Like the first one is be proactive. So proactive in his terminology means don't be reactive. Reactive means you get emotional. Something happens and you get emotional, and therefore you don't handle it well. Be proactive means don't get emotional, use your intelligence and respond wisely. Sounds like Gurudeva. Principles for effective management of people, right? That's what it is. Gurudeva taught, it is easy to study the law of karma and appreciate it philosophically, but to realize it, to apply it to everything that happens to you, to understand the workings of it as the day goes by, requires an ability to which you must awaken. Right. So easy to understand. Don't react. Don't retaliate. Hard to do it. In facing a difficult karma, what do you think is the first principle of karma management? What's the basic thing you have to do if somebody mistreats you? It's the absolute basic. First principle is forego retaliation. If you retaliate, you've created a mess, karmically. There is no need for us to be the instrument to return a karmic reaction to someone. For example, an individual is really nasty to us, so we feel the need to retaliate and be nasty to him. If we follow that tack, we create a new karma to ourselves to face. Better to let someone else be the instrument to return that karma. Then we do not generate a new negative karma to face in the future. So retaliation causes a new negative karma. Get caught up in a cycle. Let us take as an example a classic cowboy movie plot. Someone shoots and kills your brother during a robbery, and the rest of the film is devoted to your chasing down the outlaw and shooting him in revenge. For some reason they stopped making those movies. But they used to. What then happens in the next life, the sequel? There is definitely a karma to be faced for killing and revenge. Perhaps another robbery will take place and you will be killed. Better to let the sheriff take care of the outlaw. The sheriff has taken an oath to uphold the law and therefore creates no negative karma. If in capturing the outlaw, he has no choice but to kill him. So that's the key. He's taken an oath. He has a code of conduct, and as long as he follows that code of conduct, it doesn't create a karma, even though he kills someone. Insight from Gurudeva on the principle of foregoing retaliation. So each one has a Gurudeva quote and a Tirukkural quote. Retaliation is a terrible negative force. When we retaliate against others, we build up a bank account of negative karma that will come back on us full force when we least expect it. Sounds like disaster. And we have Tirukkural has some wise words about foregoing retaliation. The verse reads, forget anger toward all who have offended you, for it gives rise to teeming troubles. Well said. In facing a difficult karma, what do you think is the second principle of karma management? So we manage to forego retaliation. What is the next logical level to reach in handling this in wisdom? Second principle of karma management is accept responsibility. Our karma manifests through other people, and thus it is easy to see the other people as totally responsible for what happens to us. For example, you are attacked by a mugger who strikes you and steals your valuables. You are quite upset with the malicious thief. However, the mystical perspective is to see yourself as responsible for whatever happens to you. You are, through your actions in the past, the creator of all that you experience in the present. You caused your loss. The thief is just the instrument for returning your karma to you. Of course, it is easy to apply this principle when the effect is an enjoyable one. We know intuitively when we get good things that we deserve them, and not so easy to apply it when it is not enjoyable. But in both cases, we are equally responsible. In the end, you have no one to praise but yourself when your life is filled with successes, and no one to blame but yourself when your life is filled with difficulties. Insight from Gurudeva, principle of accepting responsibility. As long as we externalize the source of our successes and failures, we perpetuate the cycles of karma, good and bad. There is no one out there making it all happen. Our actions, thoughts, and attitudes make it all happen. We must accept and bear our karma cheerfully. Tirukural has a verse that describes the tendency of men to accept responsibility for the good that comes to them, but not the misfortune they experience. Why should those who rejoice when destiny brings them good moan when that same destiny decrees misfortune? Human nature. In facing a difficult karma, what do you think is the third principle of karma management? So we forego retaliation is the first one. Accept responsibility is the second one. What is naturally the third one? What's even more refined than those two? Third principle of karma management is forgive the offender. Take as an example a teenage boy on the way home from school. One day a gang teases him for being different in some way and beats him up. Common response is for the teenager to feel angry at the boys who attacked him and harbor ill feelings toward them for years. This is problematic as it helps keep the lower emotions of anger constantly present in the boy's subconscious mind. I have chosen to express Gurudeva's insight to the wisdom of forgiving the offender by sharing a story Gurudeva would occasionally tell. Story of Swami Shivananda being attacked by a man who hit him forcefully in the head with an axe during evening satsang at his Rishikesh ashram. Swamiji's outraged followers soon subdued the man. The next day, Swami met with his attacker and gave him a train ticket home, several spiritual books, and some money. Swami said, "Thank you so much for being the instrument to bring this karma back to me. Now I am free of it." He felt no anger toward the man whatsoever. Very high-minded. And there is an equally high-minded verse in the Tirukural on forgiveness. If you return kindness for injuries received and forget both, those who harmed you will be punished by their own shame. Interesting. Meaning, maybe not immediately, but eventually they're going to realize what they did was low-minded, and you took a high-minded approach, and they feel bad that they were so low-minded at that time. So that's what it means if it's not clear. The fourth principle of karma management is consider the consequences. What does considering the consequences mean to you? Quite often our actions are based upon an emotional reaction to what someone has done or said to us. Consequences of such actions have not been clearly and carefully thought about. Someone has insulted us, so we insult him back or her back. If we did reflect, it would be seen that the consequence of harming someone else with our words in the present is for us to be harmed again in the future by someone else's words. This behavior creates an endless cycle of being harmed and harming others, which is only stopped by our considering the consequences before acting and not harming back. Mahatma Gandhi once said, "An eye for an eye will make the whole world blind." So too, instinctive retaliation ultimately makes the whole world angry. The habit of considering the consequences before acting can be developed at an early age when parents and teachers utilize the positive discipline methods of facing the natural and logical consequences of one's actions. So that is how you learn about consequences. Instead of whoever it is disciplining you just getting angry and yelling or hitting you, they work out a way that you experience the natural or logical consequences. Then you start to understand actions have consequences. There is an insightful letter from Lord Ganesha dictated by Gurudeva on consequences in Gurudeva's book, Loving Ganesha. Keep track of your paces, for your walk makes marks. Each mark is a reward or a stumbling block. Learn to look at the step you have made and the step you have not made yet. This brings you close to me. No, mark, of course, means karma. So you learn to look at the step you have not yet made. That's considering the consequences. Insight from Gurudeva. It is our reaction to karmas through lack of understanding that creates most karmas we shall experience at a future time. Tirukara has a verse that points out the karmic consequences of harming others. All suffering recoils on the wrongdoer himself. Thus, those desiring not to suffer refrain from causing others pain. Very simple idea. Or the way I sometimes phrase it is, treat others in the present as you want to be treated in the future by others. Very simple idea. Third topic, Yoga Swami's words of our master. See what wisdom he has today here. First quote. Because God is with us, we see, we hear, we talk, and do everything. The scientists say that even plants talk. Second quote. Same idea, different presentation. If you press the switch, there will be light. Similarly, God is in the heart of us, like the power station. What do those quotes mean to you? The example I like to use is a computer. If a computer had self-consciousness, it could be quite proud of all the complicated procedures it can accomplish. However, turn off the electricity and it can do nothing. God is the electricity. So if God wasn't present within us, we wouldn't be alive, we wouldn't function. So we take all the credit, but it's actually God who makes it possible. And we have some Tamil words here. I'll try and read a Tamil verse, I think, in a minute. Uyir, life, animal or vegetable life. Soul, anma, living being. So uyir means both life and the soul. That's the point there. Then we have uyir kuyir, God who is the soul of the soul, or life of life. Uyir kuyir. Then we have two verses from Tirumandaram. Excuse my pronunciation. Uyir kuyir ay nitral on yana pusai. Being the life of life is splendorous yana worship. So that's being God, a life of life. Uyir koli nokal maha yoga pusai. Beholding the light of life is great yoga worship. So, very interesting. In other words, this is what we practice in Gurudeva's teachings. What are we trying to achieve in meditation? Trying to see the inner light. So it's right there in the Chudamandram that Mahayoga, success in yoga or great yoga, is when we're able to see the inner light. And that light relates to God, relates to life of life. And then jnana is being that life. So we're not just looking at it as dualistic. We're looking at the light of life as dualistic. Being the life of life is monistic. Oh, thank you very much. Our Russian devotees, many are busy with their first Sunday of the month Homa. Wish them well.